frustrating. So, but we got it figured out. Well, yeah, I had to download the presentation onto my thumb drive, and for the computer here, it doesn't support the most current version of Office, so I had to degrade it or dummy it down, go with an older version, but then that stripped away all the video, which I didn't realize till I got here. So now I was trying to pull it off the cloud. So everybody knows what the cloud is, right? So, okay. Yeah, it's not that cloud. Yeah. So then we had to figure out that, and I had to get, our IT guy, Kent, involved. So he straightened me out, so I think we're good.
Did he charge you extra?
You know what? I doubled his raise. 0 times 2 is how much, Rex?
2.
There you go. So, and I realized my eyes are getting so bad, I actually should probably have my glasses with me, because I could hardly see any of you out here. So, sorry for getting started late here. This evening is not a lesson in any way. It's really just an opportunity for Cindy and I to share with you a little bit of our experience from our trip to Israel this summer. We didn't build this as a lesson. We built this. When I say we, honestly, Cindy gets all the credit, because she's really been, the worker bee. I helped with some stuff, but she did most of it. So credit where credit's due. It goes to Cindy. And but for us, we built this to chronicle our experience. So it's really just a slideshow, and it's just photos. It's like sitting at home, going through the family album for us, so we can remember our experience and where we were and what we did. Now, I start off with New York. We spent a couple of days there, and I'll just go through that real quick, just share a couple of things with you.
How long a time frame is there? 2 weeks, a week?
I'll get to that, and I'll show you on there, but yeah, we were gone, I think we were in Israel I think we had like 10 or 11 full days maybe. So, if we're lucky, we'll get to the end of day 3 tonight. So, because what we tried to do for us, and again, like I said, we built this for us. This is for Cindy and I. This is our journal so when we went somewhere, each slide, then I'll talk about where that ties in with the Bible, at least what we thought, and how we saw that, okay, we went to Gath, so, okay, what is Gath? Where do you see Gath? And just the different places that we went, or when we went to the Temple Mount, okay, so where we were, and where were we standing? What did that, is there any significance there? So just stuff like that. So it's just our personal notes and reflections that way. But before we get started, could I maybe call on Chad to lead us in a word of prayer?
Father in heaven, we thank you for this day you bless us with. Thank you for this opportunity we have to come together and to look into your word and hear about Eric and Cindy's trip to the Middle East. And Lord, we're so just thankful for all that we have in this life. We're thankful for the history that we can see of mankind and its movement and its development, and especially as we look back, as they look back in Jerusalem, and we can see all the things that still exist, that were in existence back when Jesus walked this earth, and how that can build our faith and encourage us. We're so thankful for your Son and his willingness to come down to this earth and to live amongst us and with us, and then he was willing to sacrifice himself so that we can be redeemed from our transgressions. We're thankful for this congregation of believers here. Pray that you would be with us and encourage us. Lord, help us to grow, not only in number, but also, more importantly, closer together and closer to you. Help us to strive to follow your word in all that we do. Forgive us when we fall short of your will. We ask that you be with those of our number that are struggling with their health, recovering from surgeries, battling sicknesses or disease, and pray that you bless them with the health they desire. Give them comfort and peace. And we're so thankful for the peace of mind that we have, that though our physical body decays, we know that our spiritual body can be renewed on a daily basis, and we know that our spiritual body is what will endure forever, and even though this physical body will eventually go down into the dust. Again, we're thankful for Jesus, who gives us that hope that even though our life here ends, that our eternal life can be with you when our lives are over. We ask you to be with Eric as he presents the material he's prepared, and help him to remember all the things that he hopes to impart to us and help us as listeners to be open-minded and with open hearts and to take away from it the importance of Jesus being on this earth and the remnants that remain in the Middle East and the things that we can see that verify for us what your word says. Again, above all, thank you for your Son. It's through his name we pray. Amen.
All right. So I don't know who turned the heat up. Was that you, Rex? Trying to make me uncomfortable? So, so in all seriousness, like I said, this is for us. We wanted to chronicle our journey, and we probably have over 1,000 photos. So we tried to sift stuff down and, go day by day and just chronicle where we went and what we did. So we're not going to share all, 1,000 photos with you. If we're lucky, we'll get up to day 3 in Israel tonight. That's the intention. So we started off our trip going to New York. It's about 2,400 miles from here, and about a 5-hour flight, pretty uneventful. So just a normal flight, flew Alaska. Fortunately, no significant issues, so nice, comfortable. Made it there. We flew into JFK down here, and we ended up staying on Manhattan Island, so just over there. Now, Manhattan Island is, it's pretty interesting. It's 22 square miles, and there's a population of about 1.7 million people on there. Now, Chad, you're the map guy. Do you have any idea how big the city of Seattle is? Is that kind of in your space? Would you know? Like the city of Seattle, not just downtown?
I should know.
Yeah, I just kind of thought you might. It is, I wrote it down, so 83 square miles with about 773,000 people. So it just gives you an idea of the difference.
Does people live on that island, Eric, or is it just mainly businesses?
It's businesses and people, so it's 1.7 million people that actually live there. Mostly down in the south end, I think, where you see the tall towers. That's kind of the business district, so that's more business. People come in and work and then leave. But there is actually a lot of people that live on the island. So pretty interesting, but that just gives you an idea of the masses of people that are present in New York and the amount of people that are around you at any given time. It's a lot of people. It was a lot of fun. Cindy and I actually ended up, we walked, if you go to Central Park up there and you go to the top of Central Park, the north end, and just kind of from maybe there, I don't think we kind of went all the way to the top of it, because I think we stopped right at the body of water, the top body of water there when we were at Central Park. But pretty much everything down, I think we walked it. So we walked everywhere. One day we walked, what was it, Cindy, 17 miles? So we didn't take a sub because we didn't want to not see something. So we just we could take the subway, but then we wouldn't see everything from A to B. So we just walked everywhere. We get there, traffic, just get there. It's in the evening, nothing exciting. So got to see my mom. So she came in on the train from New Jersey, and we got to have lunch with her. I don't get to see her very often, so that was kind of nice. So if you want to know what a short Jewish woman looks like, right there. So that's just the downtown area there, right there. I think that was, you got Times Square. So I think that's both are Times Square. So just a lot of people. It was actually very rainy on the first day that we were there. So when my mom came to visit, we really couldn't go anywhere. She came into Grand Central Station, and we just kind of found somewhere easy to get to and just had lunch and visited. Didn't want to take her walking around in the rain. So we left Seattle and found Seattle weather, so it was perfect. So this right here, I think if you go on the right, if you like Peloton, I'm a Peloton fan. We have Peloton equipment, so we had to find Peloton. That's the New York Times right there in the middle. And then off to the left is the 911 Memorial. And so we got to visit there. If you get a chance to, if you're ever on that side of the country, you get to go. It was very sombering and very, very tasteful. So good thing to do. Nice place to visit. Now, that was all the way, we stayed closer to Central Park, and the 911 Memorial was all the way down on the south end towards the tip of the island. So it was a long haul. relatively speaking. You don't get anywhere fast in New York because you're constantly stopping. So there's lights everywhere you go. It's a city block, you got to stop at a light. So you really don't move fast, even though things aren't far away. It's kind of like if you've ever been to Las Vegas and you see something and it looks so close, but it's really far away. It's just because it's so big. It's the reverse effect with New York. It is literally right there, but you can't get there because you're at a stoplight. So it's pretty interesting. We walked through Little Italy one day on our way back from the 9/11 memorial, and I personally loved this meatball pizza. So it was at Lombardi's in Little Italy, which is, probably the best pizza in the United States. But my wife, I don't know that she would agree with me, but she persevered and had that meatball pizza with me. So, but it was fun. It was interesting. This right here, I think off to the left there, that's the Empire State Building. Top corner, I think we took a walk in the evening, and what was that? Rockefeller Plaza, right? So right there. I think they're just roller skating. And the lower one there, that's Radio City Hall. So just some interesting things that we saw in New York. So we spent a couple of days there, and then our last day, we had a flight out at midnight that evening. So we got up in the morning, had some breakfast, got cleaned up, and then checked our bags with the hotel, and we still had most of the day to kill. So we actually went and spent time at Central Park. Now, Central Park is 843 acres, or the equivalent of 51 city blocks, and it's a half a mile wide and 2.5 miles long. So it's really not that big overall. I mean, depending if you do the whole circumference of it, I mean, that's probably a 10K. So depending on how quick you are, you could run that thing in an hour. So not that big, but really nice. So especially for, city folk. And there's lots to do there. Actually, some of the guys I work with actually used to work in New York and work downtown. And so they were giving me a lot of ideas. And you could literally spend the whole day, maybe a couple days at Central Park, because there's a lot of stuff to see there, even though it's not terribly big. Now, here's some of the views, the different things that we saw there. Very pretty. But the one thing that struck me the most in particular was, and this is always the case anywhere I go, and then I think about where we live in the Northwest, we have so much beauty and natural beauty around us, and so many things that we can see. Hiking trails, mountains, trees. I mean, it's just, you don't know how much you have until you see what people don't have. Because I'm sitting here walking around Central Park going, there's a lot of people here. It's fairly crowded. Really, anywhere you go, you're not necessarily by yourself in anywhere because it's just a lot of people there. And it was pretty, but I'm looking at it going like, is this all you got? It's like, wow, I feel pretty bad for you because like the view off my back deck is better than this. So it's wonderful. But, good for them. And it's a good option if you're a city dweller, you have a place to go and be outside. So just a couple of days in New York. It was fun. It was interesting. We walked around there. I think we put 12 miles on that day on our feet. So, and we got ourselves to the airport in the evening, and we met up. We flew out on 2 different airlines. That was the way the group ended up getting booked. So we had group leaders assigned for each airline. So we got there, and then we had to find, the person we were supposed to check in with. They were going to make sure everybody got on, each respective plane. So that was a lot of fun. Uneventful, but you're just, probably the worst part is because they checked, we had to go through security to get in the airport, and then we had to go through security again as they were loading the plane. So they're very serious about security coming into Israel. So you just went through security again right before you get on the plane. So it was kind of a mad dash at that point. But everything went well, went fine. Flight was fun, and as much fun as you can have on I think it's a 5,600 mile flight, and that was probably about 11 hours or so. So 11 hours on a plane. about as fun as it can be. And, you know, the plane was interesting. We had a lot of, what would you call them, Cindy? The practicing Hebrews? Was it the Hasidics? Yeah, Hasidics. And so they would, you know, you're on this long flight and you're doing your, they serve meals and they try to get you, regulate you and let you go to sleep, so they turn all the lights down. But they have a schedule that they keep with their prayers, and doesn't matter if everybody's asleep. So they get up and move around every couple hours and do their thing. So that was kind of interesting to watch. I didn't have it as bad as some. I've heard of some flights with people where there's so many where they'll like literally like block off areas and you can't get there, like get past them to go to the bathroom. We didn't have anything like that. There was quite a few though, and pretty uneventful, but pretty interesting to watch because not something you see every day here, but just stuff that they would do. And they have the, I think I'll have a slide on this. They have the telefins, like they've wrapped these straps around their arms, and there's a way they do it, and you know, you get to watch all that. It's kind of interesting. So this is, you were asking days, like we spent a lot of days there. So this is our itinerary for the trip. And if we're lucky, I think we're going to get down to day 3 maybe this evening. So comparatively, just kind of think about Israel. It occupies a relatively small area when you think about geography. So New Jersey, if you compare it to New Jersey, and that's our 5th smallest state, and for me, I grew up in New Jersey, so I like to use that as a comparison. And they're relatively the same size, so they're very similar. Israel is only slightly bigger, and that's now. Pre-1967 Israel was a little bit smaller than it is today, so they got more land after 1967 in the Oslo Accord. I think that's what it was. Dad, do you remember that? Was it the Oslo Accord? That's what that was?
The 67 war?
No, it could be the war, but I thought it was the Oslo Accord. I forget where the Oslo Accord came into play. So, but anyway, we'll cover it. But, you know, really the point being that the most important thing to understand is that if you look at New Jersey, and has anybody ever been to New Jersey besides me? Yeah. So not a real big state, so at all. You can drive through it very quickly. But that's Israel, basically. If you just plopped Israel, it's about New Jersey, a little bit bigger. That's the landmass. And if you think about everything that happened there, you know, from a biblical perspective, the things that we read, it's in this very small area. So a lot of, you know, and as we go through and look at slides, that's what kind of was constantly sticking with me on things. It's like, you would look and go, okay, well, this happened here, and then you'd turn to the left and go, well, that happened right there. So, and it's not, you know, geospatially, when we read about it here and study and having never been there, it's easy to think, oh, well, that was probably really far away. But it wasn't a lot of times. It was the next hill over. So right down the dirt road, so to speak. So very interesting to think about it that way, at least for me. And there's a lot of archaeology there, a lot of history there, a lot of digs that go on in Israel. And we do rely on archaeology to kind of help us understand things and reinforce things of the Bible that we know. But it's also important to remember that archaeology, it doesn't, how did Luke say it on leading our tour? It's archaeology, there's the absence of evidence, you know, doesn't mean, I'm kind of messing that up. Do you remember how we said it, Cindy? Yeah. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So archaeology is just a tool. It helps us understand. It might reinforce some things. We might find things. But there's a lot of human factors that go into that. Like, are they digging in the right spot? Are they, conducting a proper dig? A lot of times they're making inferences from just a little tiny thing that they find. So we can't hang our faith on archaeology. We hang our faith on the Bible. But that said, we always seem to find that the Bible, whatever was said in the Bible, we find proof that it actually happened. So not much more to say on that. Here's the different places we went. I plotted them out on a map. So on the right, that was our Israel tour guide. He plotted that out on a map that he had there for us. And then I just plotted out on Apple Maps. So just all the different places we visited, just to reflect on. And as you can see, we went to a lot of places. We saw a lot of stuff. And when people go, well, what was your favorite thing? What was the best thing? It's like, oh, it's like, wow, that's a hard one because we went so many places, but I do have a favorite thing. And I'll show that to you. But we saw so much. I mean, it was all great. It was all favorite. But some things kind of stick with you more than others. And so, guy on the left, that's Luke Chandler. I think he'll be out here as in April. So it's Chandler Tours, so that's where we went. He's a super good guy. You're really going to enjoy him, and I'm setting him up for failure now, right? So you're going to be like, oh, this guy's terrible after he leaves. But no, really good. I think he's spent 10 years on archaeological digs in Israel, so super knowledgeable. Really a geek when it comes to just information and history. Like, he can just stand there. It was just amazing. Everywhere we went, he would just be like, oh, well, right here. And then he would just go into a big dialogue. No notes, no nothing, just talking. So he really knows his stuff. And he's really good. So you'll enjoy. He'll have a lot to say and a lot to share. I'll skip the lady, that's his wife, that's Melanie. And she was a good mother hen throughout the entire tour. She kept us all on track, made sure we ate, made sure we got to where we should be. But you'll really enjoy both of them. So they're really good people. And I'm looking forward to them coming out here to present to us. Our Israeli tour guide, Zach, the fellow with the right hair, really interesting character. And it's just, it's amazing. His dad was I believe, a general in the United States Army and retired. And his dad brought the family over to Israel to settle it. And they lived in a kibbutz, or several kibbutzes over the years. So he grew up in Israel. He was in a lot of, like, the Yom Kippur War and a lot of different, battles that occurred over time. So he had a lot of really good stories. And he was super helpful. Now, especially with the, any language barriers and making sure we were able to communicate and get around. And, but it's really interesting just the stories he has to tell, but you have to have an Israeli tour guide when you go there. So you couldn't just go there, like Luke couldn't pull this off and not have an Israeli tour guide. You have to have one. Luke did all of the talking, really. Zach, when we got places, Luke really kind of led the conversations, informed us. Zach did a little bit. Zach mostly, kept us on track, talked to us when we were on the bus in between destinations, had a lot of good information for us, a lot of, good stories, a lot of good insight. He knows as any good Jew, he knows his Old Testament, front and back, and sideways. So very knowledgeable with the Old Testament. And, even he said, this tour was very interesting. He goes, because he said, you guys go to Bible places. He goes, this isn't like a normal tour that I get, pulled into. He said, he enjoyed it, but he's like, you guys go places nobody else goes. So if you ever get a chance to go to Israel, I would encourage you to do so. And honestly, I feel like, after going there and coming back, I feel like if you're a preacher and you haven't gone there, you need to get there because it gives you so much context. It's like going from a black and white television to, 3D, 4K ultra vision. So, because you just have so much more context. You have a visual of it. You have, sight, sound, touch, feel. So that you just don't have when you're just studying just the words of it. And not that that's wrong. That's what we should do. And if you don't ever have the opportunity, that's okay. But if you do, jump on it. Absolutely. Highly encourage it. And then we have Fauzi here. He's our Palestinian bus driver. So Israeli tour guide, Palestinian bus driver. We're not going to get to this tonight, but if by chance we do come back and you want to see more slides, the best meal we had was in the Palestinian area. So Fauzi took us into the Palestinian area for lunch one day, and it was phenomenal. But Zach couldn't go. So Israelis are not allowed in the Palestinian areas, and the Palestinians are not allowed in certain areas. There's 3 areas, and did we miss a slide or did I skip past it? Oh, yeah, I didn't call this out. So if you look up here on the right, you'll see area A, B, C, and annexed by Israel. So Jerusalem is in the annexed area. So in Israel, you have, it's a very interesting setup. So, and you would probably enjoy drawing a map for this, Chad, because I know you're into that kind of stuff with the maps, because it's spaghetti factory, really. When you think about it, this doesn't even do it justice. If you get a really detailed map, like you're going through, first off, let me see if I can get this right. I think it's area A is Palestinian. So no Israelis allowed. So you have the country of Israel, but you have, see all those A's? They're actually Palestinian, so you can't go there if you're an Israeli. Then you have the C, which is most of it, the white, that's Israeli. So the Israelis can go there, no Palestinians. Then you have B, which is, we both can go there, but the Israelis won't go into B because they don't feel safe. So really, the Israelis only go into C. And when we went into our Palestinian area for lunch one day, our Israeli tour guide actually got off the bus. We dropped him off at an Israeli army base, and he stayed there while we went into the Palestinian area. So just think about living that way here in the United States. Like, that'd be weird. Yeah.
If you live in an area A, how do you travel then from one to another if you got relatives? I mean, you'd have to pass through Israeli.
Israelis, Palestinians don't go into C, or well, let me take it back. Israelis don't go into A. Palestinians don't necessarily go into C, but they can go into C. So they will pass through it. But an interesting tidbit on that, Zach was telling us, is like, okay, so if you have a Palestinian from the A area and he's driving, through an Israeli area and he gets into an accident, there's nothing you can do. You'll never get paid for that. So there's no law for that. So, and he'll just go back into the Palestinian area, or they will. So really interesting setup. And I think only one time we actually stopped at a checkpoint and they came on and checked our papers, so to speak, which is really it wasn't threatening or anything in any way, but it was odd, not something an American's used to. But very interesting. And then you think about it, you have we're driving down a road, and I was talking to Zach about this. It's like, okay, so it's like I see Israeli soldiers here. And he's like, yeah, we control the road, but to the left and right is Palestinian. So really, interesting. So he goes, and I was like, okay, so if you have a problem and you have to chase somebody, you have to stop right there at that line if they cross it. So it really, just a strange setup. So, but they live in a very different circumstance than we do. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about our days. So our first day there, we went to the Temple Mount. And if you see, there's eight gates. We went in gate 6 down here. So that's called the Dung Gate, or you may see it referred to as the Refuse Gate. So lots of different names, and honestly, if you can think of a couple, 3 more, I wouldn't challenge you on it because it gets pretty confusing. I got to do, I think, that way. So I was looking at it this way, going to go this way, but I got to turn around for you. So that way. So I think you'll see up there in the upper corner where it says Muslim Quarter, that's where the Antonia Fortress would have been, I think right up in that area. So the Dung Gate sits on the southern end above the original entrance. So this is the gate going into the city. And then in order to get up to the temple, we had to go through we had to go through metal detectors, bag checks. So we had to go up through this area right here, over that bridge. So I'm just kind of pointing down there with the arrow. And non-Muslims are only allowed to enter through this gate. This is the Moroccan or the Mughrabi gate. So there's 11 other gates for access, but only the Muslims can use those. So this is the only gate non-Muslims could go through. And We couldn't have a cross, a Bible, anything like that. No weapons, obviously. So, you basically went through security to get in there. And security is another interesting setup. So you get in there, and there's a Dome of the Rock. Now, you see the security right here in this slide. There's four, I think that's three men and a lady, and those are Israeli. So it's Muslim controlled, but it's Israeli secured. Really interesting arrangement. So when you think about it. And we could not go into the Dome of the Rock when we were there. They weren't letting any visitors in. I don't know if that was strictly COVID related or what that was, but I think my father-in-law did get to go in there. Did you get to go in there too, Oliver?
We went through it.
Yeah. So, how was it? Yeah, how was it? Yeah.
Well, the rock was interesting. You
Okay.
could go down underneath it
Yeah.
and it was interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't my favorite spot, but
Yeah,
it was interesting.
yeah, we didn't get to see it, so we can only see it from the outside. Now, there's a fountain right there, and this is a Muslim foot washing fountain. So you can kind of think about, just to give yourself an image, think about Paul cleansing as he enters the temple in Acts 21 and 26. So then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself along with them, went into the temple, giving notice of the completion of the days of purification until the sacrifice was offered for each one of them. So, probably not the same water source, from Paul's day, but just sort of the setup. Just imagine that. This is the area, this is where the stuff is happening.
Do you have any idea how the footprint matches up between old temple that was torn down in 70 AD and what's there now?
Yeah, what do you have to say on that one, Cindy?
Well, the Dome of the Rock.
Yeah, it's built right over it.
Supposed to be the Holy of Holies.
Yeah,
Where the Dome of the Rock
Yeah.
sits is all the ancient.
yeah. So, I think the Dome of the Rock is built right over top of the Holy of Holies, at least what they believe it is. Yeah,
And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty accurate.
yeah. There's very interesting stuff that you'll find there. But a good question. Thank you. So the Dome of the Rock was built in the 7th century AD and probably sits on the exact location of the ancient Holy of Holies. They wouldn't allow us inside when we were there.
Why do that all with people?
You know what? I look kind of sketchy. Those guys look trustable. I don't know. So, I think it may have been more COVID related because they were just starting to open travel back up when we went over, but I don't know.
They wanted a different time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
the second time I went, you couldn't go in.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was long before COVID.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Was that before your trial? Yeah. So, yeah, not exactly sure why, but no. I don't think, at least non-Muslims, I don't know if they're letting Muslims in, truthfully, but no, we weren't able to go in.
Back up a couple slides there, you said when you go through that one gate that you couldn't take Bibles, does that include what's on your phone?
No, if people ask that question, and we didn't run into a problem, but it's one of those things, if they chose to make it an issue, they probably could have. So, but no, that wasn't a problem for us. So this right here, this is to the east side is the court of the women. So this is where Mary would have presented Jesus. So anyone, you could, go to Luke 2. Who has their Bible open and would want to, so I have Luke 2, 22 to 40, but that's probably a lot. I don't think we need to do there that much. It's probably, what was it, Cindy, around verse 28 maybe? You remember? Let's see. So Luke 2.
22 to 24.
Is it that soon?
22 to 24.
Okay. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So now when the days of her purification, according to the law of Moses, were completed, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord, as it is written in the law of the Lord. Every male who opens the womb shall be called holy to the Lord, and to offer a sacrifice according to what is said in the law of the Lord, a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. So, this is when, Mary would have presented Jesus at the temple. So we were there. We were kind of in that area, not that exact temple, but we were in that area where they think this is where this all happened. I thought that was kind of neat.
It's assumed that that's the same courtyard?
Yeah, and this right here, this is what they believe, Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a spot that they uncovered they believe is the original bedrock.
The original Mount Moriah, but
Yeah. Mount Moriah, yeah. So same area, maybe not the exact same spot. So then we started walking out, and we started towards the Antonia Fortress, where in the New Testament times and during Paul's story in Acts 21 through 23. The Antonia Fortress is in the horizon there. The wall shows the cutouts that would have been present on the fortress. So if you see, I think lower right here, this is a door, probably an access right there. There probably would have been soldiers standing guard there. And another day we saw a spot where there would be like things like in the stone cutouts. And what those were games. The soldiers would play games as they were standing there on guard duty. If you've ever been on guard duty for a really long time, it gets boring. So I could totally imagine that. But that's what they would do. That's what they explained to us. Those would be just like games they would play. So there's probably some over there, but we didn't see any of that spot. We didn't actually get up to that, but we saw it in another spot. And then I think this one right up here, that little cutout there, that's probably like a weapons cutout. So I would imagine throw spears out of it or dump hot oil or something. I don't know. And that's the upper corner there. That's us walking towards the Antonia Fortress. That tower you see up there, that's not the fortress. It's to the right of it. Is that right, Cindy? Yeah. Like I said, that's the brains right there. So if you have questions, go there. So we then walk to the eastern edge to reflect on the early Christians meeting along Solomon's porch that you'll find in Acts 3 and 5. So just an area they would gather, nothing, terribly beautiful about it, just a spot. And it just kind of interesting to say, okay, so as we read in Acts 3 and 5 and we talk about Solomon's porch, it's like now we have a visual, like, oh, this might have been the area. It might have been something like this. So pretty neat. We then exited the temple on the upper west side through a centuries-old cotton market. And this is just a market that was built during the 14th century. Its gate is closest to the Dome of the Rock. So there wasn't a lot going on there. As a matter of fact, it was kind of funny. They warned us about like pickpockets, going through that area. So I think everybody got like really nervous, and then we went in there, and maybe it was just the day we were there. There was hardly anybody around. So it really wasn't a problem at all. But kind of interesting to walk through it. So then we go over to the Western Wall Plaza, and you can see we're just right under here is the bridge. That's that bridge we went up to get into the Temple Mount. Women are on the right side of the divider, and men are on the left. Men are required to have their heads covered. Let's see if this will go through. So I think, let's see if this works. Can you hear them? Yeah, that's the Western Wall. It's the Wailing Wall. So the men's side has some of the only original Herod stones on the bottom section. So if you look on this, where that guy is standing right there, the very bottom, you see, like, I don't know the right words for that, and Oliver, maybe you do, but as you look at that very large stone on the bottom and just that series of stones, they have like an edge around it. Yeah, that's when they see that, they call that a Herod stone. So those were manufactured Herod's time. This is the only part of the Herod's retaining wall that the Jews have access to. The rest are controlled and occupied or have been defiled in some way. So pretty interesting. And then there's a spot, I don't know if I had a picture of it. So as you're looking at the wall this way off to the left, there was like a chamber area you could go down to, and that's what that was right there. And there was, like, if you go back into it and off to the left, there was like libraries there with a lot of like what looked like really old books and parchment paper. Here is the Hasidic Jew. So you can see they have the phylactery and the tefillin straps. So you see that on, I think it's on his left. Yeah, it'd be on his left. So, and there's like a way they put those on. There's a very prescribed way to do it, a ritualistic way. So they are communal Jews that are tied together by family groups. So, and makes you think of Matthew 23:5, but they do all their deeds to be noticed by men, for they broaden their phylacteries and lengthen the tassels of their garments. So there's the Hasidic Jews. Just kind of makes you think about that. At least made me think about that. And there's that entrance I was talking about on the previous slide. You kind of go, that was off the left side there. You could go down into that area. This is the women's side. Obviously, I didn't go there, so this is from Cindy. And the Jewish women would all walk backwards out of the area. And when they asked why, when the ladies asked why, they were told that the glory of the Lord came upon here, and it is considered the holiest place on earth that they have access to. They will not turn their backs on holy. They also believe that Solomon, through divine foreknowledge of the destruction, made a hiding place when he built the temple, and they believe the Ark of the Covenant is hidden there behind this wall by King Josiah, who commanded the Levites to hide it before the first temple destruction. So, anything to add to that, Cindy, that was from your perspective?
There's original Herod stone on the women's side as well.
Yeah, you can see them right there. It's a good point. So, it really, I'll go back if on the video clip, when you heard them praying, really it's singing. One thing I don't know if you noticed there, but have you ever did you guys notice when you were there, like they rock back and forth? So do you know why they rock back and forth? Do you? Okay, I asked because I am just that kind of guy. So, I just ask. It really is just emotion. Simple as that. So, the more you're rocking and the more emotional and passionate you are. So it's just their way of displaying that. That was the explanation I received. Don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they told me. So City of David is where we went off to next. There is no historical significance to this sign. I'm pretty sure it wasn't built more than 50 years ago. See, we're not even through day one. So I'll take just a minute and be done here with you guys. So this is an overlook to the city that we stopped here before entering the city, and this is looking down in the Kidron Valley. So David might have looked down here at Bathsheba, 2 Samuel 11. Absalom's revolt in 2 Samuel would have happened here, and Solomon's coronation in 1 Kings would have happened in this area. So this is looking down at the park that we're going to go to for the City of David and heading down to enter Hezekiah's tunnel. The Temple Mount would be behind us, so it's to the back of us. We had to wait in an area for our tour time. We were very prompt, so we ended up waiting a little bit. And in this area here, there was this restored floor tiles that dated back to the Second Temple. We walked down to see the large stone structure. This is possibly David's palace, and one of the reasons why they think that is you see the stone up there, the horns. That's a sign of David. So they think that may be an area of his palace. Definitely a royal building from the kingdom of Judah. let's see, just more excavation that we saw there. And here's a stepstone structure. If you look, this is dated during or just before David's time. This would have been on the outside wall from what they think was David's palace. So you're kind of moving down from what we saw there and coming around. This all would have been destroyed by Babylon in 586. So here's the house of Ahiel, and here's a toilet seat, kind of right there. That was the toilet of modern times back then, so just a big stone. We then walked through the Canaanite water system, and this would have been the tunnels where David's army entered in 2 Samuel. And David said on that day, whoever would strike the Jebusites, let him reach the lame and the blind who are hated by David's soul through the water tunnel. Therefore they say, the blind or the lame shall not come into the house. We saw the Middle Bronze water system with a massive tower and collection pool. This is a spring tower. Just imagine this, and think of Deuteronomy, where they had spied out the land. And you see that, can you see that very well on the right there? That like looks like a tower. It's kind of coming down. So that's coming down the Gihon Spring. So what that was is it was fortified from the city. So the city is kind of up on the hill a little bit, and the main water source is down it a little bit. So what they did is they fortified that from the city. So just imagine, spying this out, and it's very impressive and very, powerful looking. So it intimidated them. But that's what that is. And this is looking through Hezekiah's tunnel as we entered. And this was dug by hand. So, and I'll show you, and I'll wrap this up here in just a minute, so bear with me. So we're not even going to get through day one. So this is dug out by hand. It's 1/3 of a mile long. It's about 2 feet wide and 5 foot high at the entrance. I got different information as to the height. I traded a text with Phil Martin today, who was with us, and he's about 6'4" or so, 6'5". He's a really tall guy. And he said there was very few spots that he could actually stand up. He said he was stooping most of the time. So it doesn't get any higher than 6'5" or so for the most part. But they dug these out by hand. So just imagine picks and bedrock. And if that's not impressive enough, how hard that would have been, they started on opposite ends and met in the middle. So I have a hard enough time getting a 90-degree angle to stick. So I'm going to put 2 pieces of wood together. Can you imagine that? So, so here is in the tunnel. This is walking through the tunnel. Nothing exciting, just a tunnel. Here is a replica of the Siloam inscription found in the tunnel. So it's the oldest, it records the construction of the tunnel. Its original is at an archaeology museum in Istanbul. It broke into 7 pieces when they removed it, or several pieces, was found under Ottoman control. Israel's been trying to get it back from Turkey, but they keep denying it on the basis that it was found in what is today Eastern Jerusalem, which is considered occupied Palestinian territory. So Israel disputes that. And we came out here, and I'll end on the next slide, I think. I think that's a good stopping point. So when we came out here, this is where I think at the time, they would have considered this the Pool of Siloam. Is this when you guys were out there? No, not for you, Oliver, but for you, Dad?
Oh, yeah, the first time.
Yeah.
First house, that's right.
Yeah. So this is what they considered it for a good period of time, I imagine. And I think when Lowell went there, this is what they thought it was. And there's a lot of disappointment. Could just imagine, it's like looking at it going, scratching your head, like, well, how could we, baptize all these people in that little space? They kept digging around and stumbled onto this. This is actually what is considered the Pool of Siloam area now. They uncovered this, and it's on private property. It's partially on private property. So if you see it dug out right up to here, Everything past there is, I think, owned by a Greek Orthodox church. But the Pool of Siloam, this is consistent with the orchard area that's in the King's Garden mentioned in Nehemiah 3:15. So when we were there, they were saying, okay, this looks like the Pool of Siloam area. We're convinced this is it. But this is as far as we can dig because it's on private property, so we don't know that we'll ever be able to dig any further. Well, just at the end of December 27th, they announced there was an agreement between that church and Israel, and they're going to let them dig out the rest. So now they estimate that what I was able to see is that the Pool of Siloam, the full area would be about 1.25 acres. So very big. And to give you context, I think this church building, our lot, is about 3/4 of an acre. So maybe 0.8. So it's bigger than the whole lot. So from the street to the back, left to right, we sit on about 3/4 of an acre here or so, give or take a little bit. So it's bigger by about 30 or 40% than this lot. So that would have been a big pool. And then this is the tunnel area that we were talking about, we went through. So you start off here, Gihon Spring. This wall came later. So just imagine off at the spring there, just that silo coming down the fortified area. The wall comes along later. That brings it all in. But they took the spring and tunneled it all the way out to a pool down here to bring the water in, to keep it away from the enemies so the enemies couldn't replenish themselves, and that way the city would have it. Very interesting feat of engineering. So, and I'll stop there. Next thing would be we would go into the Jewish quarter and the temple treasure, but that's all I got. Thank you.